everyone, and welcome to I'm a Fan. I'm Kim Eberly, your host and a producer of the show, and today we have poet, actress, model, currently working on a graphic novel, Escape the Mortars. And on top of all of that, she's a nurse. I'd like to welcome Carissa Pignatelli to our studio. Hey, Carissa.
Hey there.
How are you?
I'm doing okay. I had a very long day, if you didn't guess by the fact I'm still in my uniform.
Look at this.
I apologize for showing up a little late because, well, this is unfortunately what's been happening on my unit. We're a little understaffed at the moment, so
And
things happen.
actually, that's what we're going to talk about first.
Yes.
Nursing.
Yeah.
And it's so ironic that you come like this because that's what we're going to talk about to start off.
Yeah.
But anyway, you've had some time with your nursing career as far as like last year when COVID hit and everything that's happened. So I just want you to tell us a little bit about that, what it's been like for you and how you've are starting to come out of that, or if not, if it's like what has changed or what has stayed the same.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
That's a lot. That's a very, very long answer I'm going to have to give, so get ready for this one. Prior to COVID, I can honestly say that being a nurse, it can be a draining profession because you give a lot of yourself to the patients. You give a lot of yourself to strangers, essentially. And it's a very rewarding thing, too, in spite of the fact that it can be draining because you're essentially someone's light in their chaos. You're helping them get through things, especially when family can't always be there or friends can't always be there. And you're also there to be a teacher as well. You very often will have to tell them how life is going to be like with their treatment, how they can manage it with managing their symptoms, managing their medications, all of that. But occasionally you'll get people that will outright thank you, and that really makes a big difference and makes you say, wow, okay, I did something, and it hasn't gone unnoticed, and it's a wonderful feeling. And mind you, that's also why I'm eating this lollipop right now, because a patient's family member came in and was very thankful that we were taking care of her father, and she went, oh, we have a bunch of things for you, and this is one of the main things I took. So there we go. COVID, I was not a nice person. I was not happy with how we were treated, and
go ahead.
The big thing was that we had a very big problem with our protective equipment. And what hurt me most was that we had people that were working desk jobs, the higher-ups. They were in hazmat suits, and we got garbage bags. So all those photos that you saw online of nurses, doctors, medical personnel all wearing plastic, anything that they could find, that was true. That is not something that's been doctored. I know.
How long did that last? Like, because I know COVID, like the first cases started maybe in March of last year.
Yes.
I want to say. So how long did it take for them to get protective equipment for you guys?
Around like June, July, things started to pick up a little bit. Also, what was a big problem that we still had to deal with, but we were really pushing back for, was they gave us an N95, and I heard a little worse in some other places. Some places I heard they just gave you one mask and said, have at it. What they did with us is they gave us a N95 mask, and they said, you have to make it last a week. And their version of making it last a week was you have to put it in a brown paper bag, dirty side down. And you just close it up like you're closing your lunch. And I just remember we all looked at each other like, you've got to be kidding me that this is how we're doing things now.
Yeah, how would that even how does that make sense? Because
I'm not even sure. I mean, I'm not even sure, to be perfectly honest. The only thing I could assume was that supplies were limited, and they figured save the plastic for a protective barrier with everyone else.
I heard Staten Island was kind of rough because we had a high rate of cases.
I think a big reason for that is, I know some people say, oh, well, it's political. They didn't want to follow because it became such political. I think initially it was more because Staten Island tends to commute. We have a lot of residential things going on in Staten Island. We have a couple businesses here and there. We have, obviously our hospitals, the few that we do have. But for the most part, people work off the island.
Yeah.
They stay here to live. They don't work in the island.
That makes sense.
So there's a lot of commuting. You don't know who you're running into with commuting. I think one of the reasons why I can thankfully say I came out of it never having COVID.
Thank God.
Is that I live close to where I work. So that makes a very big difference for me.
So you were a creature of habit. You didn't
sort of.
That me too. Like go to the grocery store, the same round every day. I never ventured out to where I could get in trouble.
Yeah, and I also took advantage of a lot of places started doing delivery services, so I did that as well, and that helped a little bit more because I felt safer doing that.
Yeah. So I remember writing to you many times, like, "Are you okay? I'm worried about you. How are things going?" And I also worried about your mental health because it had to be devastating to be around families and them not even be able to, like, talk to their loved ones.
That was painful on so many levels. We did have some rooms where they had phones where people could talk to their relatives, which helped.
Yeah.
But then you had patients that weren't always with it. Older people that maybe were dealing with dementia and things like that. We even had one patient that she was blind, so we had to make it where everything was right where she knew them to be, so she could have access to everything she needed.
I'll tell you, I give you a lot of credit because I don't know how you made it through. Well, tell me how you made it through. What did you do to make it through?
To be honest with you, I started looking for different coping mechanisms because my usually coping mechanism for a lot of things tends to be people. I go out, I'll do poetry events, or I'll go to see a play, I'll do something live. And even if I'm not actually interacting with people, I always found it to be very therapeutic for me to just get other people's energy. But I didn't have that option this year. So I did everything from different types of activity, like I did a lot of hiking when the weather was warm. Sometimes I would do a little bit of exercise too. And obviously I'm not like a fit athletic girl, but I think it did help me because it released some endorphins that was able to kind of regulate my headspace there. I also started writing a little bit more, but it was like, it wasn't what I was doing for the book that I'm working on. It was a lot of times I would just journal and just say everything I wanted to say. I would sometimes write my dream life, where I would want to be if this wasn't a thing. I even thought about other things, like different paths that I could have taken. And that, I think, got me through because it got me away from thinking about it all the time. But I think what hurt me the most was that I understand people were getting a bit fatigued by wearing the mask and all that and having all these different regulations put in. But I just can't tell you how many times where people completely denied my experiences that I did not expect to. That was really what pulled me away. And what I had to do, which I still struggle with now, but I'm kind of accepting at this point, there are some people that I don't speak to like I used to. I don't interact with like I used to. I'll still be friendly, but if they call me to hang out, I'm probably not going to take that invitation.
Yeah.
I say this because I even had a former friend that invited me to a party. And mind you, even if COVID was not a thing, I work day shifts. Very often I have to punch in around 6 a.m. So she asked me about going to a party, and I say, look, I'm still working on a COVID positive floor right now, and even so, I clock in very early in the morning. So you're not coming? Was her response. I just thought it brought out a lot of the divide that I think was already there in some people that I was still kind of keeping around. But I realized how precious my time is, and I think everyone should know that.
Yeah, of course. So I first got to know you when we did the Grand Guignol.
Sammy, I think my water just broke.
Oh my God. Oh my.
Sam, please get a doctor, please.
Honey.
Sam, hurry, please.
Honey, I'm going to be right back. Hold on. Hold on.
Doctor, it hurts so much. Is it supposed to hurt this bad? Oh, please make it stop. Please make it stop.
Yes,
and you played a character in a play called Dreams and Wishes.
Yes, I remember Brooke Ramaja wrote that.
Yes. And then during COVID, I loved your acting so much that I said, but before that, you were in Just Cakes.
Yes.
Remember that one? You were in Just Cakes. And then wasn't there another play that one.
Which one?
It was the America's Most Haunted Spooky Ghost Hunting Adventures in the Paranormal.
I had so much fun doing that one.
which could be like a paragraph, the title alone.
Ready? And action.
This is an EMF meter. It detects electromagnetic field changes, which tends to explain why lights flicker and batteries drain when ghosts are present.
Hey guys, I'm sensing something.
Are you sure? I don't sense anything.
Well, you're not a psychic, are you? It's here with us, trust me.
Yes, I'm here.
I think it's a female spirit.
Yes, finally. Someone can hear me after all these years. Is it one of the murder victims?
Maybe, I'm not sure.
Ask her where her skull is. They said the police never found any of the heads of the victims.
Oh, my, what a little ghoul you are.
Ow!
What is it?
Hemorrhoids acting up again?
No. Damn mosquito.
Do you hear that? Laughter over there?
Where?
Over here.
Here?
Yes, right there.
Nothing intelligent here.
Probably just the wind.
That one, and then I asked you to come back to do the COVID dating game.
Yes.
Right.
Okay, we have a beautiful bachelorette this evening, and she's been waiting off stage in a soundproof booth, but we're going to bring her out now. She's an adventurous gal from Staten Island, New York, who enjoys acting, writing poetry, and watching makeup tutorials on YouTube. Thankfully, nobody has flattened her curves. Please welcome Katrina Spanky.
Hi, Mom. I told you I was going to be on TV. Oh, and by the way, Antonio, Michael, and JB, you could have had this, but now these guys are going to get something, okay? I'm just saying, you should have been nicer to me, okay? I'm done with you.
So I've had some experience with you in the acting realm, but you've done so many other things besides that. So tell me about your acting, when it started, and
Oh boy.
yeah.
Well, I mean, if you want the full thing, I remember acting when I was pretty young, but it would be more like little school things, nothing really major. I really got into it in high school. I remember I found a tribe, so to speak. I remember there was a lot of people that had gotten into the dramatic arts, and I absolutely ate it up. I loved it. I especially loved literature and English class. I always enjoyed.
Yeah.
But then time went on. I realized, you got to pick a career that's going to make you a little bit of money, or a survival job, so to speak. And I wanted to make sure I was going to do something that was worthwhile. I didn't want to just have a corporate job where I was just writing people up all the time. And it's unfortunate. Some people will tell you that they've had that in management, whether it's in management nursing or management in retail. That tends to be the way to go. But I started looking into nursing, and what I enjoyed about it was that it takes the sciences but also the human element and puts it together. So a lot of times you'll see nurses that people will say, what do they do? And while, yes, we will do med passes, we will dress wounds, we'll do all that good stuff, but we're the ones who will actually sit and talk with you and say, okay, this is what you have to do, here's how you do it, here's how to manage it. And there's been times I've had to go up to certain doctors and said, well, look, this is why this patient is not taking their medication. They're experiencing side effects. So you end up being an advocate as well.
Yeah.
That's something that I always enjoyed doing. So I figured, I could encompass all of that in one career. And also it's pretty flexible. Even though I am working in the hospital right now, I've met nurses who work on cruise ships. I've met nurses that work in schools. There's other aspects of it.
Yeah.
There's even legal nursing where they work with a lot of different lawyers to basically decipher their way through all these medical charts.
Interesting.
So there's a whole bunch of things you can do with it.
Yeah, I didn't know that, but you chose being in the hospital, which I think is that's probably the hardest place to be. But the most interesting, because maybe you have all kinds of different cases.
Well, this is the thing I noticed when you work in something like the hospital. Your skills will be very sharp, and anyone that's gone into nursing will probably tell you want to at least do 2 years of med surg, which is very hard floor to go on, and you're going to learn a lot. We jokingly call it the baptism of fire, or at least my nursing group did, the baptism of fire, where you just have to go through it. You kind of get your ass handed to you a couple times, but you end up really learning a lot in that process. And once you have a good 2 years under your belt, you can get accepted almost anywhere. A lot of places will say, oh, I see you've worked in an inpatient unit, this kind of thing, and they'd be more willing to accept you.
You've been in quite a few films now. One, actually, with my friend who's won some awards, The Acquisition.
Yeah.
He fell back from fright. He took a second look, and it proved fatal. No, Penny.
Whoa.
Why would I give a crap about what some weirdo collects?
It is a mirror, yes. It's gonna be all right. I'm gonna try again. I have to keep it covered.
This is just too crazy for me. You should get rid of that thing.
Right there.
I just thought my husband would love to see my uncle's new acquisition.
What the hell?
It is a top.
So tell me what it was like working on that set.
I felt like I was going to a different world because Lance shot that in, I believe it's his mother's basement. His mother's basement is like about the size of the studio right now.
Yeah.
And he keeps a lot of like props and things like that in there, so it's big enough to house everything. And because there really isn't any ceilings in there, he's able to put these lights all in different places and make his own sets and all that. And it's great. Along with that, his mother was just the sweetest thing. She bought us all food. She cooked for us a little bit too. So
that's great. Wonderful. Yeah. So it was like a really good experience filmmaking.
Yeah, it was like you went upstairs and you had a very homey experience, very welcoming. And then you went downstairs and it was like this scary little area where we were shooting everything.
It's funny because not a lot of sets are like that. Like not a lot of people go out of their way to make it like a fun day.
Why it was so wonderful.
Yeah,
honestly.
yeah. But the acquisition actually has won a few awards now in the circuit, which
there's been a lot. There's been a lot we've been nominated for also. I can't keep up. I feel like I keep getting people telling me like, oh, by the way, it won this. Oh, it got nominated. I'm like, oh, even better.
Yeah, it's great, great. Well, your film can only be as good as your actors.
That's true.
That's like a thing that I say. You can only be as good as the people that work for you.
I'm just so happy he included me in this because I forget who involved me first, and I think Brooke actually had me audition for him, but he showed me the role of Pam, and he asked for a self-tape, and this was right before the pandemic hit, by the way. I actually went to go visit a friend in Florida before everything began. I had a friend that just moved out there before all the craziness happened, and I explained to him, I said, look, I'm not home right now. Is it okay if I, film it to you where I am? Because most of the times, especially now, when you send in a video audition, you have to have a clean background. You need to, have all your clothes done and all that. You have to basically look presentable because this is essentially a job interview. I didn't have any of that. It was really hot in the middle of February down there, and they did not have any, fresh, clean background that I could really use. So, I told him where I was. I did the part, and he accepted it. I did not think that was going to happen, but it did.
Yeah, it's great.
And I just ate up that role. I don't want to give away too much of the film, but I love the fact that there was a lot of versatility to that character in a short amount of time.
Yeah, and you've been on some other films, in some other films since then.
Yes.
I think I've seen them on Facebook, maybe. One was I don't know the name of it. It was with you with a little girl.
Oh, that one's called The Idea.
What are you doing?
Wake up. Wake up.
What?
I woke up to go pee, checked in on Lily, and she wasn't in her bed.
What?
She's wide awake on the couch.
It's 3 a.m.
Wait. I spoke with Lily. She told me that she gets these ideas planted in her head that she has to complete in order to go to sleep.
Okay, look, no, this is ridiculous. I'm putting her to bed.
Guess what she told me when I asked her what idea it was this time?
What?
She said to kill you and me.
No. She's fucking with us. She's testing us. She's testing us.
I don't think so. I can't tell.
What do you think we should do?
We have to call the caseworker tomorrow, first thing.
Yeah, that's a good idea. And let's be cautious. Let's keep the doors locked.
Yeah. That was actually Joe Schiffreuter. That was his handiwork. He is a writer and director. I jokingly call him a one-man crew.
That had a little twist to it, too.
Yes,
it was
yes,
good.
yes.
I really thought it was clever the way it was written.
Yeah.
Did he write that one?
He did.
Okay,
he did.
good.
Joe is, and I enjoy he's another person that I enjoy working with also. I met him of all places on Backstage.com back when it was still kind of free to use for actors. Now I think they're starting to make you pay for subscriptions now. It used to be you could pay or you could not pay.
Right.
Now it's like you have to do it for everything.
Yeah.
Oh, well. But I remember he needed 2 girls for a background scene for a film that it was like a little pilot he was shooting for a feature film.
Yeah.
The scene basically entailed there's this drug lord guy and he has 2 girls sitting on the couch and they're basically crushing pot and rolling it for his subjects, so to speak, or clients, better said.
Yeah.
And he wanted us to wear like silk robes to imply that we're kind of with him. You know what I mean? And he said, I didn't want it to sound too creepy, but I didn't want it to be too over the top. It's very hard to find people to do this. And he made sure that we were paid for our time. He made sure that we were fed and also made sure that we had a way to get to and from.
That's
great. He was really accommodating about it. And, he was saying right away, like, what do you feel comfortable with? He was always asking if we were okay with that. And
so that was another really good experience with filmmaking.
Yes.
Yeah.
I have met some really good people with in the arts, which I can happily say, because I know, especially now, a lot of people have brought up the negativity. And yes, that's been there, and I think it should be brought up. But I do think we need to shine a light on the positive aspects of it, too, to say, like, this is why people continue and why people keep coming back.
Yeah.
So
recently, like, I follow you on Facebook a lot to see what you're up to. Of course, we all do that.
Yeah.
I feel like a little stalker kind of, right? But you recently posted some really beautiful photos too. I think from 2 different artists, I believe. One was Carlos. A photo from Carlos. Maybe he painted you?
That's I know him as El Stalbo.
Okay. So one was from El Salvo.
Yeah.
Which is really beautiful. I love that.
He does a lot actually with he was telling me I was actually speaking with him earlier before I came here. He was telling me about some of his influences. And I forget the artist that that influenced him. Frank something or other.
He's an amazing artist.
He's wonderful, but he does a lot with the female form, but also he mixes it with a lot of surrealism.
Right.
Which I think is just absolutely cool.
Yeah.
But we met, surprisingly enough, back in the day I used to do go-go dancing, and it was great because I got paid to party and I wasn't taking my clothes off.
Let me just add that to my list.
Okay.
Go-go dancing too. I didn't know, but okay.
That's all right. I mean, I haven't done it in quite some time, so I don't know if I could even keep that on my resume now.
Yeah.
But still, I remember I was actually dancing in an art gallery. I remember there was a girl that was supposed to do a solo thing where she had to dance with these, like, sparkler things and all that.
Yeah.
And she unfortunately was not able to make it, so they asked if I would do it. And I said, all right, you know what, I'm going to improv it. We're just going to have fun with this, and I'll never see these people again. Little did I know. But I remember El Stalbo actually approached me later on. He handed me his card, and he said, look, I just want to let you know, I think you look gorgeous. I was wondering, would you feel comfortable if you modeled for me? Because I paint. And we didn't get together until a year later. I remember I friended him online. I saw some of his work, so I knew he was legitimate.
Yeah.
But our schedules didn't line up, and then we finally did, and it worked wonderfully.
It was worth the wait.
Yeah, it was absolutely worth the wait.
That's really how I first got to know you, through a spoken word event that they had at Hub 17. And I think at the time you had a book of poetry that you wrote. Like a small book of poetry.
Yes.
And you were reading some of that, and I thought, wow, this is really good.
That was my first attempt at publishing. That's before I knew anything. What had happened was I was trying to work with someone who was trying to build a publishing company from the ground up. And to be honest, I don't think either of us really knew fully
That's crazy,
what to
okay.
do at this point in time. I mean, we did get a chance to get an ISBN number, so we did get a couple things right. But it was a very, very big learning experience because, we didn't realize how important certain types of paper were when you even want to print physical copies. So that's why, I had taken most of the copies, and I still have a lot of them. If anybody wants them, I mean, let me know, but still.
What's the title of that?
It was called Centerpiece, but it was spelled Peace. It was a little play on words with that.
Okay. Nice.
It was basically a poetry book. Now, what it was really about was the family experience. And at the time when I had written all those poems, my uncle had just passed away. And my grandmother was passing soon after. And it was really just kind of my ode to my family and the things that I wanted to say to them, but I found difficult to communicate with them. And that's kind of what it came out to be. And it was really a cathartic experience for me, because a lot of times I did speak about losing my uncle and losing my grandmother as well. Because once my uncle died, my grandmother followed soon after. I really think that had he survived, she might have held on longer. Because the way I remember it, she really just gave up. And I mean, just adding insult to injury, he died the day before her 93rd birthday.
Oh.
And, you know, not that death is ever a good time, but it's just that's horrible timing on so many levels.
And speaking of your uncle, isn't he the person who inspired you to write Escape the Mortars?
Yes.
And that's I really want to talk about that, because that's your project you're working and trying to finish now.
Yes.
And I actually love the concept, and you have a very deep connection to this project and what you're doing.
Yes.
So,
well, Escape the Mortars, it started out as a poem. I have written a poem with that title, Escape the Mortars, about an experience that my uncle had when he was in Vietnam. What had happened was that he was involved in the Tet Offensive, and I forget exactly how it started, but these mortars were exploding around them, and they were in this little bay area where they couldn't really move forward or backwards. And to top it off, I later found out that on the ship that they were on, the USS Iredell, it had explosives on there as well. So if they were hit, they were not coming out of that alive.
Right.
And
wow.
What ended up happening was this weird event where the bombs that were being thrown at them just stopped. You know, what I remember being told was that what's customary to do for that is they're throwing the mortars along the shoreline. And the one that was supposed to come for where their ship was just didn't show up. And things just stopped. So I don't know if the other side ran out of ammunition or just something took them out. We don't know. But we had to do a lot of research to see what mortars would actually look like, what the weaponry would actually look like. Right. That was a big thing. I had to make sure I got the USS Iredell correct, all the numbers on the ship. We even found out that his group actually was not an official symbol, but they called themselves the Go Get 'em Gators. And they actually had their own gator that they painted on the side of the ship. But I couldn't Google that. That was something that was just specific to them.
What year was that?
That was, I have it all written down.
Like
I'm so horrible in years.
60s?
Was it 70?
Maybe the late 60s?
I believe somewhere between 76, 78, I believe.
Okay.
I have to check, but I have everything written down in the book. I'm horrible with dates. That's why I write things down. Okay. But we, you know, a few of us actually did a lot of work. And when I say a few, I mean, I reached out to my Aunt Fran and I asked about some of the pictures with them together, anything that she had that she knew. I even found out one of the things that she did, which I remember when I got together, she was a little upset because she threw it away right before we spoke. Mm-hmm. He was also diagnosed with bipolar disorder and PTSD.
Oh my
he had
God.
a very tough time when he came back home, and she did a lot for him. And I think if you have somebody that's supportive in your life, and again, with anything, keep that person around. Because one of the things that she did was she had a notebook where she actually wrote down his symptoms daily and how he did.
Yeah.
And that's how I think he was able to fare much better.
So that's post-traumatic stress syndrome.
Oh, yes. I think I think that probably exacerbated many of his symptoms, to be perfectly honest, going through something like that.
Well, I know the Vietnam War was really an exceptionally tough war in that, you know, you never, like the enemy, like the war was very different from any war that was experienced by our troops, especially being over in Vietnam, and you never knew where your enemy, who or where they were.
And mind you, my uncle actually had photos where there were some camps there where there were children. Yeah. And very often he was seen playing with the kids and making them things and getting them little presents and stuff like that. He later on became a father. It was kind of not really a surprise because he was always that person that had a very kind heart. But I know that a lot of times people have had words with Vietnam vets calling them things like baby killers, and I know he was definitely not that kind of person.
Yeah, and I think, like I said, you know, like there were different circumstances with the guys, you know, that were in combat, Marines or whomever, that they were put in a situation that was really unfamiliar to them at all. Like, you know, my brother served in Nam. He was a Marine, and he doesn't really talk about it much, but I know he's seen some shit. and it wasn't a pretty war.
No.
And they extended a lot of their stay to longer than they were supposed to be there because of the amount of people, the amount of people they had to fight. I guess I'm not sure why they extended, but they extended a lot of people doing, I forget what you call it, like
tours, you mean?
Yeah, like they had a certain amount of time they were going to be there. They would extend their time. So it wasn't like no war's good, but the Vietnam War was exceptional in that it was like very different from any war.
It was everything from different types of terrain. I know also some of the equipment that was given to those that are now vets. It was, I don't want to say it wasn't as up to par. I know some of the bulletproof vests were not bulletproof, but rather bullet resistant. So a lot of people will, a lot of people will go back and forth.
And it was a jungle, like
the terrain was different. Not something I think many people are used to fighting with.
Right.
And just in general, I mean, even here where we live, you don't see stuff like that.
Yeah.
I don't think we even see that in Florida. Come to think of it.
Yeah. No. No. But I'm so glad you're doing this graphic novella because you mentioned that you'd like to get it out there to vets and stuff because like the certain type of audience could really appreciate it.
Well, one of the things that I was very happy about was that I brought this up to Staten Island Arts, and they did give me a little bit of money from their grants program.
Yeah.
And I thanked them for it because I did realize this was going to be a very expensive venture if I didn't ask for help. And I didn't expect to get anything at all for it, but I remember I found out one of the judges on the panel actually had a father that was a vet as well.
Oh, wow.
And he brought up that he goes, I think this could show not just the ugly side of war, but what people have to deal with after it's over.
Afterwards, right.
And I right away jumped up and I was like, that's exactly what I wanted to say.
Yeah.
You got it. Because I was concerned that not everyone was going to get the message that I was trying to get out there. And I'm so happy it's getting well received and it's not even out yet.
So, what's in your future? What are your plans like?
I want to finish up that. That's first and foremost. It's it's being illustrated as we speak. I have to reach out to one of my illustrators, which I'm glad it's going along. And I also would like to write 2 other books, not necessarily graphic novels, but one of them is the works with my friend El Stalbo, where I would like to do an erotica. But I also wanted to do something that's a bit of a passion project, and the working title right now is Surviving Pandemics. And I say this because it's part practical guide to survival, but part mental health guide.
Yes.
And I say this because at one point when things started to get better, I remember I started to get a little bit of joy coming back. I was still nervous about going out to certain things or meeting people because, I'm in the thick of that. But I remember someone that I was once pretty close with. She ended up opening her own business somewhere in New Jersey. She reached out to me. She said, how are you doing? And I went, well, I'm doing all right. I'm still a little nervous about things, but good news. It turns out we are under 50 patients in the hospital. We're getting better. We're, considering the whole hospital is all filled up, I think we're doing great. And I tried to not be so morbid, and I went, I heard, I still have to look into it, but I heard that because we were all wearing masks, certain strains of the flu are now extinct. Not all of them, because we still had flu patients, but not as many as we did in previous years. And she wrote back, when are you going to stop pretending that this wasn't the government's plan to muzzle you? And she starts going off about how, my brother is a nurse, and he said that there's a lot of malpractice and this and that and the other thing. And I felt my heart just fall to my feet.
Yeah.
Because that was not what I was expecting, especially because I checked that message in the morning, which is further proof I should not be on my phone right before work.
Yeah.
But it really, really hurt. And I thought I had to really decompress myself and say, okay, look, she wasn't affected by this. She's not going to understand. She's also a business owner. I know a lot of business owners think negatively about this because they think, this is just a way to not open my business.
Yeah.
Now, regardless of how you think this should have been handled, regardless of your political views, this is an eyewitness account. You asked me how I was doing, and I'm telling you. You can't get upset with me because you don't like the answer.
Yeah.
And I was able to write back to her calmly and say, look, you asked me how I was doing. This is my truthful answer. Maybe it didn't affect everyone the same way it did in my area, but this is how it affected me. This is what I saw. And that's all. I don't know what else I can probably tell you to make this better for you.
Yeah.
And I haven't heard from her since, so I guess there goes our friendship. But
a lot of friendships have changed since COVID, and just people have become, different. It's a different world.
It's changed my view on a lot of things, but that's also why I felt the need to write this. And this is something I'm working on now. And by working on now, I mean on my lunch break, I started to dabble in it again. I've been writing chapters where it's, like I said, part practical guide to survival, but also mental health guide to survival. And
that's awesome.
One of the things that I have people realize, and I'm going to elaborate further at another time, is understand that not everyone will understand.
Yeah.
And, I can say right away, how many jobs do you know where you see people mutilated? How many jobs do you see where you talk to somebody, then the next minute they're gone? It's
such an intense experience. That's why I wanted to ask you a little bit about it, because I think, you've definitely experienced the whole COVID thing much different than us, most of us. And that's why I kind of checked in with you, because I was
and I'm
worried.
Glad you did. I am, because not many people were, surprisingly.
Oh, my God. I couldn't imagine working in a hospital at that time, but that's why I'm a fan, because you were a frontliner.
Thank you.
You stuck it out. You're okay. and now we get to do your art. We get to see a book that you're possibly writing about the pandemic, which is great. I mean, a lot of good things came out of it, right?
Yeah, and you know what? That's also why I felt the need to do this, because I kind of got on this trip where I was like, all right, I will be damned if I can't make something good out of this situation.
Yeah.
And there's another thing that I've noticed that's been good about this situation, where it has taught people to focus on their lives, not just their careers.
What's important to them.
Yeah, and you know what? People can talk politically and financially about, what's going on with the lack of work or lack of jobs, but one of the things that I have noticed is that maybe this is a wake-up call to employers to say, maybe I need to make a better work-life balance for my employees as well.
Yeah.
And we talk about capitalism and things like that. It works both ways. We have to make sure that, people are working, but at the same time, what's going to keep them working for you? One of the issues that I ran into as a nurse, as I brought up before, where other jobs did not offer health insurance.
Yeah.
What was going to keep me loyal to them? What was going to keep me coming back and wanting to do this job more and more? Especially as you get older. I can't say for other fields, but at least in mine, you get more skills. You get more of you get different abilities that the average person may not have.
Right.
So you have the ability to negotiate and say, well, if you're not going to do this for me, I don't have to stay. You want to find someone else? Well, that's on you.
Yeah.
And, that's something that I hope employers will wake up to and say, you know what, these are not just machines that are just doing my bidding. These are people.
Right.
And they have lives too.
Right. Amen.
So, yeah.
So, thank you for coming on the show and sharing some of your experiences. I could sit and talk to you for hours, but of course, we're not going to have the listeners sit for hours. But I'm so glad I had the opportunity. And if you know somebody that you'd like to reach out to that you're a fan of, please, come on the website. I'm a fan on Facebook. I'll put the address, and please let us know. So until next time, see you later. And thanks, Carissa.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
All right.